Hey, welcome back. So a user by the name of JBabeBeauty commented on my photo to vector tutorial on YouTube using Illustrator and said, "Great video, helped me so much. Are you able to do a video on halftone for Illustrator? Thank you." Okay, this is important, okay? In a bitmap image, a bitmap consists of pixels, and each and every single pixel is described by color, transparency, and location, right? And so when you describe those three things for each individual pixel, you can imagine that a file size gets very big the more pixels you add. Vectors are usually faster for certain types of images because the shapes inside vectors or vector files are they're described mathematically. So if you have a circle, for example, in Illustrator, you define that circle with a radius and a color and a size. And basically, then once you've described that image mathematically, you can resize that image to infinity, up or down, without any loss in quality. However, when you're using a halftone or taking a halftone from a bitmap into a vector, well, now you've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of tiny little spheres, right? That have to each be defined mathematically. Now we come up with a vector file that is a lot bigger and needs a lot more processing power than a bitmap file would. Doing halftones is a lot better to do inside Photoshop. And let's look at how that's done. Here I've got an image of the dog feeder that I make, one of the dog feeders that I make and sell on my Etsy. If you like this, it's at the web branch at Etsy. But um, but here's the dog feeder. This is a color image, and I'm going to turn this into a halftone using Photoshop. And all I'm going to do is first I'm going to take out all the color, and I can go to Image, Adjustments, and I can either go to Hue and Saturation and set the saturation to 0, or I can just come down and go to Desaturate. Desaturating will pull out all the color and give me a black and white image. Now I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to go down to Pixelate, and then Color Halftone. Now, I always choose the smallest it'll let me, which is 4, and then set your channels to 45 degrees. That will hopefully remove any of the horizontal and vertical lines that you see showing up through your image. Go ahead and hit OK. And now we have, if we zoom in, you can see that this picture is now made up of tiny little circles. Now, if we tried to convert this into a vector, now Illustrator or CorelDRAW or any one of the other vector programs is going to have to draw each and every single one of these circles mathematically. It's going to have to give me a mathematical formula for each and every single one of these. And as you can see, there are probably well over 100,000, if not more, in this single image here. So it's best to do this in Photoshop, not Illustrator. And it won't work. For example, let me try this. I'm going to copy all this. Let's go over to Illustrator. You can see that I've already tried this once. You know, theoretically, you would think, okay, well, now I've got this. Now I've got this into this format. Well, can't we just image trace it and then expand it? And the answer is no. There's just not enough settings or enough fine tuning in the image tracing to do something like this. So even if we just used a standard image trace, I'll just click image trace, we're going to get something that looks very, very bad. And no matter where you set your thresholds or your paths um, uh, and your noise or any of that, you're not going to get to where you want to go. And it's simply because it's not, Illustrator's not built for that. So it's best to use Photoshop. And if you're doing this for a laser, which I suspect JBabeBeauty is doing, it's best just to use the raster halftone.